Welcome. God, this is a wonderful crowd for a beautiful day. It's wonderful to have you all here. I am delighted to celebrate the women of Williams on the 40th anniversary of the first fully co-educational class. So that's the first class to have entered as freshmen. And on this occasion, we're celebrating not only the diverse paths and accomplishments of these women, but also the ways in which women have changed Williams. We do that today at this forum, and we're doing this in a story in the upcoming issue of the Williams magazine, which is going to feature one of today's speakers, Cheryl Robertson Joyner. So you can look forward to that in your mailboxes. To try to imagine for a second Williams College without women. It's impossible to do that. I certainly cannot do that. But it wasn't so long ago that the very idea of a co-ed Williams seemed impossible. And that was well before we, by the way, won all those Directors' Cups. So we keep winning the Directors' Cup. If you're paying close attention, you realize we're winning the Directors' Cup because it's the women's teams that are winning all those championships, including this year women's tennis and Williams golf. Let's give it up for women's tennis and women's golf. And the crew team, women's crew team, brought it home for us this year. Going to give it up for crew, too, all right. And so to a large extent, this was a long story coming. The college paved the way for coeducation more than a half-century ago under the leadership of President Jack Sawyer, when fraternities were eliminated and the college took responsibility for the housing and the feeding of students. And then we began to accept a handful of transfer and exchange students, and eventually in 1971, we enrolled our first female freshmen. Today, our student body is half female. We're not yet having to practice affirmative action for men. We can still find men qualified to come to Williams. I'm happy to tell you that. And our 40 years of alumni have had a profoundly positive influence on Williams and on the wider world. It's especially fitting that our commencement speaker last weekend was Ursula Burns, the first female African-American CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And by the way, she was awesome. So if you want to go to the tape and see her speak, I really recommend it. I'm also pleased to note that as of the 1st of July, women will hold a majority of positions in the college's senior administrative team. And I realize I'm currently standing in the way of this, but I expect that before too long, Williams is going to see a woman president as well. Yeah. Just don't be in such a hurry. Now, we still do have a lot of work, and very important work to do, to make Williams fully inclusive and supportive of women, to attract more women faculty and students to fields where they've long been underrepresented in particular. But in acknowledging the work that is still to be done, we also can celebrate how far we've come and show our gratitude to those whose work and example make possible today's Williams. And that's what we're going to do today. It's what this event is about, and I'm honored to be here to welcome you and to present today's panelists. Now, you all went to Williams, so you're good readers, and by now, while I've been talking, you've read the amazing biographies of these four women. So I'm not going to then use up even more time to repeat those biographies here, but I do want to say a word about each of our panelists. First, Kathy Bogan, the class of 1975. Kathy has over 30 years' experience in publication of all sorts, from book design to running the presentation department at a major metropolitan daily. After the Rocky Mountain News closed its doors, Kathy applied for a job from a cryptic job posting. Design editor needed in foreign country. Apply here. Well, sure, who wouldn't apply for that? This resulted in her moving to East Africa to work in the thriving daily print news business. And when the class president for 75 was asked for someone with the most unusual story to tell, Kathy was the first person that she thought of. And she didn't just do that. Kathy spent a couple of years teaching mountaineering, caving, and doing desert travel. Cheryl Joyner, class of 1985. Cheryl graduated high school and came to Williams 2 years younger than her peers. She was a prodigy from the beginning. She tells a story about how she stalked Arthur Levitt during one of the trustee meetings while he was a trustee and she was a student. She waited around outside the president's office, And when he came out, she asked him cold if he would hire her as an intern at the stock market. If you're any students in this room, please don't do that. However, it worked for Cheryl. He offered her an internship on the spot and took her under his wing that summer. Cheryl has a custom-made purple couch that was given to her by Prince. That is the single coolest thing about any person at this reunion, all 2,000 of you this weekend. That is the single coolest thing. I think really we all ought to have purple couches when she moved back to the East Coast. So Cheryl spent many years on the road managing artist tours as the VP of live management and is the keeper of many music industry secrets. And after drinks tonight, she will be spilling them all in the class of '85 tent. Norma Lopez, class of 1995. When we asked the various women from the class of 1995 who were involved in the hunger strike for Latino studies to speak as a group, they opted to have Norma speak on their behalf instead. Norma came to Williams from a high school in Chicago that was 95% Latino. And that culture shock, that moment, that transition really shaped her entire career. And she works now and wants to ensure that students are prepared to thrive in schools like Williams. Now she claims, and this is a claim again you're going to have to test after the panel, she claims that her children, Avi and Carolina, already know the words to the mountains. Which would actually be better than most of you in this room, as far as I could tell, from all the mountains singing and people peeking at the lyrics that I've been observing. Finally, last but far from least, Andrea Park, class of 2010. So Andrea, when she was here at the college, worked on the record, and she had the opportunity to interview Katie Couric. And clearly that kicked off a career in global journalism, and how could it not? Beijing, CNN, Piers Morgan show, that must have started with that experience. She plays the violin and the piano and enjoys cooking in her spare time. One of her goals is to be an on-air television reporter, and has a long career ahead of her, Andrea. So now I'm going to turn it over to the four of you to tell us what you're here to tell us.
Okay. Thank you, President Falk, for that warm introduction. It seems like you have a couch on the way. And it was a pleasure meeting with you in New York City. I am just so happy to be back at my beloved Williams College with my family and loved ones after all these years. And most honored to have been chosen by the Alumni Office to represent the alumni of my decade, the 80s. Oh yeah, where are my 80s people at? Okay, there you go, give me somebody, all right. I would especially like to thank Janine Hetherington and Sharifa Wright in the Alumni Office for their extraordinary, and I mean extraordinary, outreach efforts on my behalf. They had to find me. Although my talk will speak to my perspective as a woman of Williams here during the 80s, I'm hopeful that you will find timeless and relatable themes that will speak to your experience here in the Purple Valley as well. With that, let's get started. During the early 80s, the college had a program to attract academically successful minority candidates, and I received a lovely invitation to tour the campus for a weekend. The college sent a bus to pick us up at Port Authority bus terminal in New York City and transport us to a wondrous new land in the Berkshires we would come to know as the Purple Valley. I thought Williams was the most beautiful place I had ever seen and the perfect place to study. It immediately became my first choice, and I was beyond thrilled when I got accepted. I arrived on campus at the age of 16, shortly after my epic Sweet 16 birthday party my mom and dad threw for me in New Jersey. I had a single dorm room at the top of Morgan Hall with a view of Spring Street that, as a curious bonus, came with a huge built-in alarm clock because my bed was positioned right next to the clock tower at LaSalle Gym. Let's just say I was never late for class. In the early 80s, even though Williams was fully co-ed, the atmosphere still felt extremely male-dominated, It seemed like the frat houses had just closed and tried to rejigger themselves to fit women. Despite coeducation, the college still had not yet shaken its all-male roots. Entering Williams College at such an early age from an inner-city high school in New Jersey, competing with students from elite boarding schools, and with about an incoming class of about 10 people who looked like me was quite an adjustment, to say the least, even though I was a straight-A student who had skipped grades prior to arriving on campus. So many of my peers on campus were a bit older than me, which made it challenging at times to find common ground. I knew I had to stretch and expand myself beyond my years in order to succeed. I felt like a fish out of water that landed in the Purple Valley. While I absolutely loved the physical environment of Williams, it took me a while to adjust to student life. Due to the rigors of the heavy coursework, I was singularly focused on succeeding academically. One of the first things I learned here in Biology 101 was that either an organism adapts to its new environment or dies. At that moment, Williams instantly became less pastoral and more like an extended episode of Survivor. Armed with my new survive or die mantra, I sought out mentors to help me adjust to life on campus and found them in 5 people who I lovingly call my ETH tribe. David Bowen, class of '83, Keith Hops, class of '83, my Aunt Rita Pete, my Uncle Wallace Pete, and English professor Ilona Bell. Oh my God, I have not seen her in 30 years and she's sitting right here. Yes. Please, thank you. Bowen and Hops were leaders in the Black Student Union and were like my big brothers on campus who showed me how to navigate the rough roads in the Purple Valley. My Aunt Rita and Uncle Wallace Pete lived an hour away in Albany and were a crucial part of my local family support system during my time here in the Purple Valley. They both were high-ranking New York State government officials who would come pick me up for the weekend anytime I wanted to take a break from campus and was in need of family time and a great home-cooked meal. My Aunt Rita, who passed away shortly after I graduated from Williams, was the epitome of strength, grace, elegance, and style. She used to bring me to her office and was the first person to teach me how to conduct myself in a professional manner, write corporate memos, and would take me to the mall to teach me how to dress appropriately for any occasion. I'm hoping I'm doing her proud today. She and my Uncle Wallace had a very loving home, which was a welcome retreat during my college days. Her invaluable life lessons completely shaped how I conduct myself as a professional and in my personal life to this day. My Uncle Wallace Pete, who finally remarried a few weeks ago to my new beautiful Aunt Arvella, he's sitting right here. I brought everybody with me. Has been my rock my whole life. Nothing deterred him from coming to Williams whenever I asked, no matter how many feet of snow was on the mountain on the way to the Purple Valley. He was there for every Williams family day and made sure I kept pocket money so I could fully enjoy the Williams experience. Through his dedicated example, he really taught me the importance of putting family first, no matter the circumstance. I didn't fully understand it at the time, but his now ingrained key life lesson has crucially served me well in making decisions during certain career crossroads I faced, particularly as a senior executive woman, and during key life moments post-Williams. I would never be able to repay the debt I owe to my Uncle Wallace and Aunt Rita for being there for me fully during my crucial time of development. Professor Ilona Bell. I don't know if any of you have had her as an English professor here. You would have been very lucky if you did. And she's still here, which is wonderful. She was the singular influence who helped me develop an appreciation for the liberal arts educational process. She is a force of nature with a gentle style that taught me the importance of balancing educational rigor with taking the time to smell the fresh mountain air and morning air. She and her husband Bob would graciously invite students to their beautiful home to discuss great literary works. Their gardens look like a scene straight out of A Midsummer Night's Dream. To this day, she is one of the greatest spirits I have ever met. Oh, I'm so glad to be able to say this to her, right? Well, she's here. All right. To this day, she's one, to this day, she's one of the greatest spirits I have ever met and instilled in me a lifelong love of the arts, literature, and writing. The lessons from Bowen, Hops, Aunt Rita, Uncle Wallace, and Professor Bell not only helped me make the transition to college life, but truly helped me prepare for life after Williams. They have my eternal gratitude for being my ETH tribe. As many of my fellow alumni in this room know all too well, going to class into the main dining hall of Baxter at the time to eat and retrieve your mail during winter is very much like a hunting and gathering trek in the Arctic tundra. In Williams winter, which takes up most of the school year, unless you were big on skiing, you spent a lot of time trying to keep warm indoors. In winter, during my rare downtime while here in the 80s, I would watch MTV in the common room of my dorm, back when music videos were still a new medium. Watching videos of Prince, Madonna, and Bruce Springsteen helped me unwind from the rigors of the Williams course load. I loved the creativity of the channel. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen in programming on television. I found this new fledgling network keenly tuned into what I valued in culture at the time, namely music and style. By watching, I also strongly felt I was in a community of like-minded people who thought and lived way outside of the box. As a result, I knew instantly in my core that contributing to society within the creative community was something I was going to do. Watching MTV got me through the Williams Arctic chill and ultimately shaped my decision to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. And within a few years post-Williams, I was creating global marketing campaigns and producing concerts for those same artists and many more. I'm very happy to say that with the help of my ETH tribe, I finally secured my footing in the Purple Valley, and at the age of 19, during my final semester of my senior year here at the college in 1985, was accepted to Harvard Business School. After graduating from Harvard, we'll just fast forward through those years, I immediately began making my name for myself, developing and successfully executing global marketing strategy for musicians, represented by major labels including Warner Brothers Records, Sony, and Universal Music Group. Over the course of my 20-plus year career, I was widely credited for selling hundreds of millions of records by introducing new artists to the marketplace and revitalizing the careers of music legends, sometimes changing their names to a symbol, right? And just recently, I was most proud to have been presented with my second professional Grammy from the Recording Academy for my achievements in the music industry. Oh, yes, so there you go. I was working as Vice President of Marketing for Universal Music Group in 2000 when my daughter, Madison, was born. My priorities were immediately tested as a woman executive, and I had to make some very important life choices. Luckily, I had learned so much from my ETH tribe that the decisions once she arrived were relatively easy to make. My mom, Helen Murray, and my aunt, Geraldine Patterson, sitting right over here and over here, were my saving grace. My mom instilled in me a strong work ethic in my early childhood and worked hard to support our family. She was and still is a tough, brutally honest, and no-nonsense parent who fully expected me to head to college, excel academically, and to go on to have a successful career, never using race or gender as an excuse. My Aunt Geraldine, seen here photobombed with my friend Oprah, is a retired math teacher and to this day is my right hand, to say the least, and instilled in me the love of world travel at a very early age. I was so fortunate that my mother and Aunt Geraldine retired and stepped in to take care of my daughter during those times when I traveled the globe with artists for work, sometimes on the jet right next to me and staying in the hotel while I worked, so I would be able to see my daughter. It gave me a great peace of mind knowing she was in such loving care. They are my Uncle Wallace's sisters, and our very close-knit family structure has served my daughter and I extremely well. That's Madison today. She has films that have been shown in Tribeca Film Festival. That's her on the stage there. Because of the things I've learned from them and my Eve tribe, I've made very clear career choices, shifts, and sacrifices so that I would be there for Madison as a present parent. It can be a 24/7 work week, so I had to set my boundaries very early on. And after being a parent for nearly 15 years now, I am proud to say I'm raising the next woman of Williams. I eventually went on to serve as Vice President of Alliances for Live Nation, producing extremely large-scale live concert events around the world and executing entertainment contracts for companies including American Express, Adidas, Geico, and Major League Baseball. A lot of the artists I worked with in the record labels, I also ended up producing a lot of their shows. This year, seeking even more control over my schedule, I became chairman of my own company, Para Music Group, which Para stands for producers, arrangers, and recording artists. And we source music from over 144 countries for use in film, television, and ad campaigns. Right now, I'm deeply immersed in a major project with a super producer called Timberland, who is the executive music producer for Fox's TV smash hit show Empire. Maybe some of you have heard of it. I've now worked with and have great relationships with every major recording artist and entertainment executive on the planet that I ever admired while I was a student here at Williams. And thank God for cold winters, because that might have turned out very differently. I'm also very proud to say that I've helped and mentored many people along the way. I think that careers in the entertainment industry are well suited for Williams grads because their well-rounded liberal arts education makes them uniquely prepared to think fast on their feet. In my business, no 2 days are the same, and you have to wear many hats in order to succeed. Overall, I have to say that being a woman of Williams during the 80s served me well, primarily because it was not particularly warm and welcoming to women during that time. It was a struggle to find my voice at the college. And overcoming that challenge was a gift that prepared me better than anything to face the daily real-world challenges as a senior executive woman in the male-dominated entertainment industry. In closing, I would like to thank the man who's been the wind beneath my wings of this woman of Williams for some time now, Mr. Sylvester Knox, Senior Vice President of Global Wealth Management for Merrill Lynch. He stands strong beside me as a loving companion and I guess a filmer today. And I deeply appreciate his unwavering support of our family. Well, I learned many invaluable things during my 4 years here at Williams, and I hope I wrote this right, Professor Bell, because my English professor is sitting right here, and it's a little extra pressure when she's right there. Okay. I wanted to share my top 3 lessons I learned here in the Purple Valley. Lesson number 3. Develop great hunting and gathering skills while here in the Arctic tundra. Comes in handy when things get heated in the boardroom. Lesson number 2, associate yourself with a great tribe to support you, for they are crucial to your survival beyond the Purple Valley. Fellow EIFs, family, and a small core of friends have been a consistent and incredible support system along the way and have stood as shining beacons of light on my road less traveled to the top of the corporate ladder and back to the Purple Valley. And anytime I've called a Williams alum, they go bend over backwards to make sure that they're available to help, and I really appreciate that. And some of you in here I've called on as well. And finally, a liberal arts education teaches you to think fast on your feet. This will especially keep you safe from all the skunks you are sure to face in the real world. Thank you so much for this honor.